Going to be taking you to an EFF Central Command team a press conference, of course, after they met yesterday, and the party's leader today, Julius, will be briefing the media on the outcomes of that meeting.
Marking its 10 years of existence as a political formation that is at the forefront of the struggle for economic freedom in our lifetime. The CCT meeting further had extensive engagements on the Road to Victory manual, which is our strategy towards the 2024 election victory. The CCT engaged in these critical matters, taking into cognizance the fact that in South Africa, state institutions are being abused in protection of one individual, a compromised head of state who is also a money launderer. We reject with contempt the South African Reserve Bank cover-up of the Pala crimes and unlawful smuggling and usage of foreign currencies. We will take the South African Reserve Bank report on Pala dollars to court for judicial review because there is evidently an attempt to cover up the crimes committed in Pala and state institutions are being abused in protection of the outgoing President of South Africa. The CCT notes that despite the superficial claim that jobs are being created in South Africa, the reality remains that more than 15 million South Africans who need jobs do not have jobs, and the sitting government does not have any believable and practical plan to end the crisis of unemployment and joblessness. Millions of young people are now at the mercy of crime and illicit drugs because of desperation. Despite many hollow commitments to end load shedding and bring about electricity stability, there is still no clear program on how to stabilize electricity generation in South Africa. The sitting government has normalized electricity blackouts in the same manner they have accepted the collapse of basic infrastructure, the prevalence of potholes in our roads, broken windows in municipal buildings, and the overall deterioration of public spaces. Instead of resolving the electricity crisis, the sitting government is going ahead with the mutilation of Eskom into 3 different companies with the sole purpose of privatizing electricity generation in favor of the greedy domestic and global capitalist interest and demands. The CCT welcomes the expansion of BRICS into a bloc of progressive and forward-looking countries of the world, which must end the imperialist domination of the world by the West. The inclusion of Ethiopia, Egypt, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia and Argentina into what is now BRICS plus 6 is a step in the right direction because it is underpinned and defined by the need for common prosperity and not by the neo-colonial need to exploit the world's natural resources in the same way the imperialist West has been doing. We believe that in addition to the 6 new countries that will be admitted into BRICS in 2024, there has to be an inclusion of Cuba, Venezuela, Palestine, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, and all progressive must support BRICS as an alternative to the G7 and the NATO war alliance. As the economic emancipation movement, which amongst other principles embraces Pan-Africanism, we believe that African countries should use our proximity to our friends in BRICS plus 6 to pursue the development of Pan-African infrastructure programs and projects. The African continent is still far behind in terms of intracontinental infrastructure and projects that can uplift the lives of our people. The African Union and all African countries should speak in one voice to pursue partnership that will result in the development of economically beneficial Pan-African infrastructures such as railway projects and electricity transmission lines that will interlink the entire continent and bring about electricity and industrial expansion for jobs and economic common prosperity. These are issues we will be raising and placing on top of the agenda during the 16th BRICS plus 6 summit in Russia in 2024, because we'll be the government of South Africa and will represent South Africa at the BRICS plus 6 summit in Russia. The Central Command team reflected on the role the EFF continues to play in governance in Parliament, provincial legislature and municipal councils as an organization that is in government. The EFF is pleased that we are making a meaningful impact in government, which is reflected by the service delivery initiatives we are making in municipalities such as Ekurhuleni, Johannesburg, Mogale City, eThekwini, and Nelson Mandela Bay. We'll continue to demonstrate to the people of South Africa that the EFF is capable and willing government that will bring about maximum progress, stability, and quality service delivery to our people. The Central Command team reflected on the undemocratic and corrupt role municipal officials play in councils and how they effectively undermine the role of democratically elected public representatives. There are some city managers and municipal managers who think that they own councillors and they can control what the councils must do. In particular, the EFF noted that the current city manager of the city of Nelson Mandela Bay, Nokolo Nkwazi, is currently out on bail for fraud and mismanagement of municipal funds. On the 1st of June 2023, the EFF called for the immediate resignation of Nokolo Nkwazi, who has adverse funding against her, which were established by the SIU, the Hawks, the Office of Public Protector in the Eastern Cape. The EFF will introduce a motion against the city manager of Nelson Mandela Bay to call for immediate removal, and there will be no peace council sitting in Nelson Mandela Bay so long as a criminal continues to preside over the finances of the city. Nokolo Nkwazi must never think that she can buy the EFF the same way she bought all the councillors in the Nelson Mandela Bay. We are not and will never be in the pocket of Nokolo Nkwazi, the city manager of the Nelson Mandela Bay. The Central Command team once again commends and appreciates the selfless work done by all EFF leadership, structures, and ground forces in the excellent execution of all programs marking the 10th anniversary of the EFF. The EFF has emphatically demonstrated to the people of South Africa, Africa, and the world that we stand as a formidable political force which is ready to lead South Africa and all progressive forces in the continent into the future of common prosperity and economic emancipation. The excellence of our internal systems for mobilization and organization reflects our strength as a solid movement. We are therefore emboldened that our organization is capable, able, and well-structured and able instrument to bring about change South Africa needs today. The same way we execute mobilization and organization internally in the EFF, that's how we are going to run efficient government when we take over in 2024. The CCT received the final report of EFF public representatives who failed to organize for and pay for transport of their constituencies to attend the EFF 10th anniversary. The CCT takes serious exception on public representatives who, having had more than 5 months to organize transport for their constituencies, failed to do so. In the EFF, all our leaders organize, mobilize, educate, agitate, and also fundraise for all activities of the organization. Without these qualities, public representatives and leaders under the EFF cannot be trusted with the lives of our people and the responsibility to be at the forefront against the ruthless white monopoly establishment. The CCT has therefore resolved to recall all public representatives who failed to meet the organizational mandate and obligation in relation to the EFF 10th anniversary rally. The recall means that all councillors, members of provincial legislatures, members of parliament who failed to organize for and pay for buses for the 10th anniversary celebration must resign from positions of their deployment with immediate effect. This resolution is in line with Section 14, subsection 9 of the EFF Constitution, which says, I quote, "The CCT has the power to recall any deployee of the organization from any position of deployment, including deployment as public representatives," close quote. The CCT further resolved to remove the elected structure. The CCT further resolved to remove from elected structures all leaders who failed to organize for and pay for buses for the 10th anniversary celebrations. The removal is in line with Section 14, subsection 10 of the EFF Constitution, which says, open quote, the CCT has the power to remove and replace incompetent members of the CCT, PCT, and RCTs, close quote. If they are loyal to the cause for economic freedom in our lifetime, the EFF members who are recalled from deployment and removed from elected structures will remain as members of the organization, but will not be eligible for deployment back to structures they were recalled from. We took this decision to recall them because we saved them from going to the National Disciplinary Committee or any disciplinary committee at whatever level, because the outcomes of any disciplinary committee at whatever level are not guaranteed. They may lead to the suspension or the expulsion. We thought this was the best political intervention because those comrades who are affected by this decision, they will remain with their membership if they so wish. Failure to comply with this directive will lead to all those members being charged and suspended with immediate effect, and the National Disciplinary Committee will take the process forward. The Central Command team had extensive deliberations and discussions on the EFF Road to Victory Manual, which is our strategic and tactical outline detailing how EFF structures will engage in the lead up to the 2024 general elections. The EFF Road to Victory Manual presents the phases of our approach to elections, which are 1, Maitlome Phase 2, Mamela Phase 3, Tselatupa Phase. Additionally, the EFF Road to Victory Manual presents an in-depth analysis of electoral politics in South Africa and analyzes the EFF's continuous qualitative and quantitative growth since its first participation in South Africa's electoral politics in 2014. What the Maitlome phase entails is that all EFF structures are converted into elections task forces, whose primary responsibility will be to organize, mobilize for, and coordinate all work in relation to elections. The CCT is therefore converted into the Central Election Task Force. Provincial command teams are converted into provincial election task forces. Regional command teams are converted into regional election task forces. Branch command teams are therefore converted into branch election task forces. And this applies to all our wards-based branches and voting district-based structures of the EFF up until the end of elections, and the constitutional structures will be reinstated immediately after the elections. Furthermore, the Maitlome phase includes the formation of dedicated elections and mobilization committees, which include Manifesto Drafting Committee, Communications Committee, Youth and Student Committee, Women and Mobilization Committee, Workers Mobilization Committee, Voter Registration Committee, and other committees that will make sure that the EFF has maximal impact in the 2024 elections. The Maitlome phase also has already started and will be concluded on the 7th of September 2023 with all the necessary structures and committees established. The committees are constituted and led as follows. The Central Election Task Force will be convened by the President of the EFF, Julius Malema. The coordinator of the Central Election Task Force will be the Secretary General of the EFF, Commissar Marshal Dlamini. The Manifesto Drafting Committee will be led by the Deputy President of the EFF, Commissar Floyd Shibambo. The Cost Center and Fundraising Committee will be led by Treasurer General of the EFF, Commissar Umpile Mautwe. The Media and Communication Committee will be led by the National Spokesperson of the EFF, Commissar Snao Tambo. The Mobilization and Organizing Committee will be led by Fighter Patrick Sindani. Food Bank Committee will be led by Commissar Godrich Gadi. The Mass Voter Registration Campaign Committee will be led by Commissar Sharon Letlape. The Minority Groups Mobilization Committee will be led by Commissar Nazir Paulsen. The Youth and Student Committee will be convened by the President of the EFF Student Command, Commissar Sitle Lonzi, and coordinated by Commissar Ngobile Mtlongo. The Women Mobilization Committee will be convened by the National Chairperson, Commissar Veronica Mente, and coordinated by Commissar Mandisa Makasini. The Workers' Committee will be led by Commissar Tlengiwe Mukalipi. Additionally, in line with the establishment of the Central Election Task Force, all provinces will be convened and coordinated by members of the Central Command Team, while regions will be convened by members of provincial command teams and CCT members. The deployment is effective immediately as follows. The Eastern Cape will be convened by Commissar Noltando Nolchungu and coordinated by Commissar Sam Matias. The regions of Eastern Cape will be led as follows. I asked SG that where I'm butchering the names, he must come in. The regions of the Eastern Cape will be led as follows. Alfred Nzo region, I'll start with the coordinator and end with I'll start with the convener and end with the coordinator. Alfred Nzo region, convener Tulisile Mlokoti and coordinator Mawande Magadla. Amatol region, Mbali Dlamini and Onga Mpep. Buffalo City region, Sam Matias and Mzianda Tlekiso. Sarah Bartman region, Polnita Marias and Lita Zibula. Krisan regions, Tembile Matikizela and Lona Chocho. Nelson Mandela region, Natasha Ntangweni and Zoleka Kotoi. OR Tambo regions, Lindile Vena and Mzukisi Fukula. Jotrabe region, Zikona Njoli and Sitlabucha Murwa High. The Free State will be convened by Commissar Tembi Msane and coordinated by Commissar Mandla Shkwamban. The regions of the Free State will be led as follows. Fezile Dabi, Tapelo Morale and Amelia Chabalan. Lejoal Putswa region, Ma Peule, Coach Lipoko and Shelim Kwanas. Mangaun region, Tembi Msane and Thomas Matingwan. Tabo Mfutsanyane region, Busanku Musimanga and Mapaseka Mutau. Karib region, Anthony Matumba and Sipati Nanyani. Gauteng will be convened by Commissar Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi and coordinated by Commissar Lian Mateis. The regions of Gauteng will be led as follows. Ikuruleni Lian Mateis and Dunga. Nkululeko Dunga. Johannesburg, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi and Moshe Koma. Sidibeng, Matsidiso Janet and Betuel Munyai. Swani, Mugrini Chwaku and Obakeng Ramabudu. Westland, Philip Makwala and Lindiwe Masile. KwaZulu-Natal will be convened by the Deputy President Floyd Chibambo and coordinated by Commissar Ntokozo Tonyan. The regions of KwaZulu-Natal will be led as follows. Amajuba, Matapelo Siwisa and Sibusiso Sizan. eThekwini, Ntokozo Tlhonyane and Themba Mvumbu. Herigwala, Khosi Mkhonto and Nketo Mjenga. Ilembe, Thabisile Nkosi and Sakhile Zondo. Kinketshwayo, Mongezi Thwala and Sibusiso Mthinyane. Ugu, Thengiwe Chiliza and Thami Kuma. Mgugundlovu, Yazini Techana and Mzwake Mpulo. Mkanyakude Nkululeko Ngubane and Simo Mthembu. Umzinyati Chuma Wakeni and Sanele Nyoka. Utukela Nosipo Makamba and Mbongeni Shange. Zululand Babalwa Matulelwa and Tulani Ndlovu. Limpopo will be convened by Commissar Godrich Gati and coordinated by Commissar Mabat Mukausi. The regions of Limpopo will be led as follows. Capricorn, Fikile Wortman and Jacob Lebo. Mopani, Mpushen Lishabani and Tenyeko Mangai. Skukuni, Chelizi Maraga and Messi Kennedy. Bembe, Victor Rambau and Rasi Maepa. Waterbeck, Dr. Lawrence Matsitela and Mokwape Ramalobela. Mpumalanga will be convened by the Treasurer General Umpile Maotwe and coordinated by Commissar Reneilwe Machabel. The regions of Mpumalanga will be led as follows: Botlhabela, Jackson Malachi, and Surprise Kubai. And Tanzania, Lerato Tito, and Sunday Mgiba. Kher Sibande, Rulani Kibi, and Nkateko Ndlovu. Kangala, Colin Sidibe, and Mpo Morukul. Northwest will be convened by the Deputy Secretary General Popimai Lula and coordinated by Commissar Papigi Babuil. The regions of the Northwest will be led as follows: Bujanala, Tlengiwe Mkalipi, and Justice Dabambe. Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, Letitia Eris, and Mutusi Muntwedi. Dr. Ruth Sonkopoze Mumpati, Primrose Bohatsu, and Lesole Malefo. Ngaka Mutiri, Matsidiso Botswe, and Simon Maebane. Northern Cape will be convened by Commissar Rebecca Mtala and coordinated by Shadrach Tlaule. The regions of the Northern Cape will be led as follows: Francis Bart, Keke Kenoti, and Vusi Rapoto. John Taule Haitsewe, Tseko Mafanya, and Penyo Uhenzwe. Namakwa, Z, Quinana, and Glenda Lepolesa. Pixley Kaisaka, Seme, Gwitsi Mudimu, Halter, and Leseo Mogalagadi. Sianda, Jocolin, Botman, and Paco Kautsane. Western Cape will be convened by Commissar Dr. Susan Tembekwayo and coordinated by Commissar Mbulelo Magwala. The regions of the Western Cape will be led as follows: Cape Metro, Una Tintame, and Ntsikelelo Chandela. Cape Winelands, Nazir Paulsen and Dr. Wandile Kasibe. Central Karoo, which is joined with Southern Cape, will be led by Nolovuyo Tafeni and Neil Lu. Overbeck, Tembile Tlas, and Tozama Manai. West Coast, Aisha Kasim and Tolani Chetun. The second phase of our election approach is the Mamela phase, which is the phase where all EFF ground forces and the organization as a whole will listen to all the people of South Africa on what should be included in the People's Manifesto. The People's Manifesto will form the foundation of the EFF's campaign agenda. All the people of South Africa will be presented with an opportunity to contribute to the People's Manifesto, and we will, during the period, publicly communicate the platform through which there will be communication and contact with the EFF for submission to be made. As part of the Mamela phase, all EFF structures at all levels will hold physical consultation with different sectors of society. This will include the following: regional leaders, traditional leaders, farm workers, people in the fishing community, security guards, mine workers, former mine workers, professionals, domestic workers, farm workers, students, civil society, the creative industry, LGBTQI+ community, African diasporas formation, the business sector, unemployed youth, social grant beneficiaries, people with disability, and construction workers. The Mamela phase will also include holding of seminars which are one-day conferences of experts and practitioners in a sector to deliberate on the following critical matters. 1. On electricity in light of the crisis of electricity confronting South Africa. On jobs in light of the crisis levels of joblessness in South Africa. On crime in light of the growing and uncontrollable levels of crime. On the creative industry in light of the continued marginalization of role players in the creative industry. The Mamela phase of our election campaign and program will culminate in the launch of the EFF Manifesto in February 2024, which will be the beginning of the last phase we call the Chelatupa phase. The Chelatupa phase begins with the launch of the People's Manifesto and will be defined by aggressive and intense campaign, which will be the center of the principle of person-to-person person campaign. Our campaign will be centered on speaking to our people directly because we are convinced of the superiority of our solutions and ideas. We cannot and will never be afraid of speaking to our people about their aspirations and demands because the People's Manifesto will be articulating their aspirations and demands. The EFF notes the elections results of Zimbabwe which were won by the ZANU-PF. The EFF is of the firm belief that the elections were not free and fair, but welcomes the fact that there was an absence of violence as an improvement, as elections in Zimbabwe are ordinarily characterized by violence. All ground forces of the EFF must understand and internalize the fact that at the center of our election program and campaign is of person to person, umtu, mutu. All ground forces are called into action and full-time dedication. We must all dedicate all weekends, starting on Fridays, strictly to engage with our people, and no internal meetings should sit when we have an obligation to interact with our communities. We are entering this election season with aim of outright victory, and that is why we are not bothered by right-wing coalitions and attempt of the ruling party to determine the contents of their exit from power. We are and remain the future of South Africa. I thank you.